You know, each year I like to plant something a little bit different, a little bit unusual in the garden, something I may not have tried before, or if I have tried it before, it's been a while since I've done that. And I do that just sort of for the fun of it, but also to try to interest children in the garden. And there are a lot of fun things that we can put in the garden that are interesting to grow, that children really get involved in. And so one of the things I'm planting today in my home garden, just for just a few rows, is something that hopefully will get my grandchildren later on a little bit interested in watching these grow and produce, and that is the peanut. Oftentimes we don't think about growing peanuts in the home garden, but actually they're a very good plant to grow. You know, peanuts are well adapted to Oklahoma. We grow a lot of them in the southwest part of the state, down in the Caddo County area around Hinton and Fort Cobb and that area. So peanuts are well adapted to Oklahoma. Peanuts are a very nutritious plant that is very, very versatile in the way it can be used. I'm sure you're familiar with what we call the roasting peanut, which is the larger peanut that you see at many of the sports events. This is typically a peanut called a Valencia. And Valencia sometimes also are called jumbo peanuts, and they are also well adapted to Oklahoma and one of the ones that we grow here. The Valencia has a rather large nut inside, as you can see, and as I say, this is the one that you typically see roasted and in ballparks and sporting events and those types of venues. Then the other type of peanut that I'll be planting today in the garden is a smaller peanut called the Spanish peanut. It's probably the most popular one grown in Oklahoma. It's a very versatile peanut. It's high in oil content, has a lot of flavor to it, and is the one you usually see in mixed nuts and in candies, and can also be roasted in the shell, much like the Valencia can. So today we're going to be planting a few of each types of these peanuts. Now what I've done is already fixed up my bed. Peanuts like a really loose soil. As the sandier the soil, the better. And because my soil is not real sandy, at least I have a lot of organic matter in it. Also keep in mind that peanuts are pretty heavy feeders, particularly of phosphorus and calcium. So we probably need to fortify that soil a little bit with some nutrients. And so today I'm going to be using actually two choices. One thing we can do is put a heavy application of just 10-20-10 fertilizer, because it is high in phosphorus, it has some calcium in it, it's not very high in nitrogen, and peanuts really don't use a lot of nitrogen because they are a legume very similar to clover in appearance, and so we really can get by with a fairly low nitrogen soil. But I'm going to give a liberal application of the plants of some 10-20-10 fertilizer, or 12-12-12 would work. Kind of mix it into the soil really well and get ready then to plant my peanuts as soon as I get this mixed in. Another choice that you might want to use if you don't want to use the 10-20-10 is simply bone meal. Bone meal, of course, is also very high in phosphorus, provides some calcium, and would be an excellent choice to use in the row also for the production of peanuts in the garden. And so I'm also, in some other rows, I'll put just a liberal application of bone meal, same way I did the 10-20-10. Mix it in very well, just to get it incorporated somewhat into the soil. Peanuts really are a crop that requires quite a bit of space. And while I don't have a lot of space in this little raised bed, I'm going to plant them a little bit closer than you normally would certainly in a commercial production. But I'm going to plant my peanuts about 2.5 inches deep, 1.5 to 2 inches deep, spaced about 8 inches apart. Then I'll come back when I get my others planted and cover these to a depth of about 1.5 inches. When these peanuts come up, I'll probably will go ahead and thin those to only 1 peanut per hill. Peanuts were originally a plant found and discovered in the old world South America countries. They came to Africa probably by the Portuguese traders, and then were brought to America to the south by the African slaves as they came in early in the history of our country. So they have a very rich heritage in our country, and are a very very important, economically important crop of the South. I'm going to cover these peanuts about 1.5 to 2 inches deep. I want to firmly tamp the soil on the top just to hold in what little bit of moisture is in the bottom of that row, and also to keep the peanut from drying out from the ambient air as well. Spanish peanut will take about 95 days. The Valencia peanut will take about 125 days to mature. As they begin to grow, they will shoot up, they will put up a clump of foliage, like I said, much like a clover plant. Will send out little pegs from the base of the plant. These pegs go down into the soil, and that's what produces the peanut. So it's important to keep soil mounded around the base of the peanut as they grow, to give some soil for those pegs to go down into. Then as we get into the fall, maybe late September or early October, we'll see these peanut plants begin to yellow. They will begin to die down, and we'll know the peanuts are ready to dig. Another thing about peanuts are that they are not very drought resistant. They do enjoy a lot of moisture. So unless we have sufficient rainfall throughout the season, you'll want to be sure and keep your peanut planting irrigated to give it a continual growth. Now, the last thing I want to do on my peanuts planting today is to give them a little bit of protection from some of my harvesting friends that really don't garden at my house. By that I mean some things like some squirrels. I live in an urban area with a lot of trees, and so I know from past experience when I planted peanuts that by tomorrow, or maybe within 2 days, there's going to be squirrels in here digging these peanuts out and eating them. And so I'm just going to put a loose floating row cover over the peanut bed. It will be loose enough to where it can float and have some space. The peanuts will have enough time to get up 2 or 3 inches tall before I take this row cover off. By that time, the nut will be completely gone from the soil, and the squirrels won't really bother it. So I'm gonna give it a lot of float here, very, very loose. And then after they get, like I said, 2 or 3 inches tall, I'll just come in and take that row cover off. So I hope that you try some fun things in the garden to try to get children interested. And quite frankly, I'm very interested in this as well. I just enjoy watching them grow. And also, speaking of children in the garden and children's activities for the garden, I want to invite you to check out our website at the Botanic Garden at OSU, and come out and bring your children or your grandchildren out to enjoy some of the many, many children's activities in the garden. Bring your kids out, let them enjoy the garden, let them explore, let them have fun, let them see the excitement of watching things grow and enjoying it as they grow. It's a very good way to teach science to young people. It's a very good way just to keep your kids interested and involved and have a lot of good outdoor activity, as well as enjoying the freshness of the air and the season. So I hope you enjoy your garden this season, and try a few peanuts in the garden.